As the cold months of winter approach, various shortages are expected to impact daily life globally. These shortages stem from ongoing supply chain issues, geopolitical tensions, economic instability, and climate challenges that have intensified over recent years. Understanding these shortages and their implications can help individuals and communities prepare for the difficulties ahead. The first major shortage expected this winter is energy, as many nations face a significant shortfall in natural gas, coal, and electricity supplies. The conflict between major energy exporting nations has exacerbated these issues, leaving countries highly dependent on imports scrambling to secure sufficient fuel to meet heating and power needs. Rolling blackouts and higher energy prices may become common, particularly in Europe, where reliance on external sources like Russian natural gas has been disrupted by sanctions and trade restrictions. This energy crunch has a cascading effect on other industries, driving costs higher and reducing productivity across sectors that rely heavily on energy. Second on the list is food shortages, as global agriculture faces the dual challenges of climate change and logistical disruptions. Droughts, floods, and extreme weather patterns have reduced crop yields worldwide, affecting staples such as wheat, corn, and rice. In many areas, the rising costs of fertilizers, driven by energy shortages, have further reduced farming outputs. Supply chain issues such as port delays and labor shortages exacerbate these problems, making it difficult for food to reach markets in a timely manner. As a result, consumers are likely to face higher grocery bills and limited availability of certain foods, including fresh produce, meat, and dairy. The situation is particularly dire for countries that heavily rely on food imports, as rising shipping costs and protectionist policies by exporting nations create additional barriers. The third shortage involves heating supplies such as firewood and heating oil. Many households have turned to alternative heating sources to combat high energy prices, driving up demand for firewood and creating localized shortages. Heating oil, which is crucial for homes in rural areas and regions without natural gas infrastructure, has also seen sharp price increases and limited availability due to refinery shutdowns and reduced production. This could leave vulnerable populations, including the elderly and low-income households, struggling to keep warm during frigid temperatures. The fourth anticipated shortage is in pharmaceuticals and medical supplies. The COVID-19 pandemic highlighted vulnerabilities in global health supply chains, and these challenges persist. Winter often brings a surge in illnesses such as the flu, colds, and respiratory infections, increasing the demand for medications like antibiotics, antivirals, and over-the-counter remedies. Simultaneously, disruptions in raw material production, coupled with factory shutdowns in major pharmaceutical producing countries, have led to delays and reduced availability. Patients with chronic conditions requiring regular medications may face difficulties obtaining their prescriptions, exacerbating public health challenges. Fifth, a shortage of skilled labor continues to disrupt multiple industries, from healthcare to transportation and manufacturing. Many sectors are struggling to recruit and retain workers due to ongoing fallout from the pandemic, aging workforces, and shifts in labor market priorities. In healthcare, this has resulted in overburdened hospitals and clinics, with fewer staff to handle the seasonal increase in patient loads. In the transportation sector, a lack of truck drivers and port workers has created bottlenecks in the delivery of essential goods, contributing to delays and higher prices for consumers. Sixth on the list is a shortage of consumer electronics, particularly items like smartphones, laptops, and gaming consoles. These products are heavily reliant on semiconductors, a market that continues to face supply constraints. The winter months, coinciding with the holiday shopping season, typically see a spike in demand for electronics. However, production delays, chip shortages, and logistical issues are likely to result in empty shelves and frustrated consumers. This shortage also impacts other industries such as automotive and telecommunications, which increasingly rely on advanced electronics for their products and services. Seventh is a shortage of clothing and textiles driven by disruptions in the global supply chain. Many garment factories in Asia, which supply a significant portion of the world's clothing, have faced production delays due to energy shortages, labor issues, and pandemic-related shutdowns. Meanwhile, higher shipping costs and delays at major ports have made it difficult for retailers to stock their shelves with winter apparel. Consumers may find it challenging to purchase affordable, quality clothing, particularly winter essentials such as coats, gloves, and thermal wear. Eighth, a shortage of fertilizers and agricultural inputs is causing ripple effects throughout the food supply chain. Farmers in both developed and developing nations are struggling to afford or access essential fertilizers, herbicides, and pesticides. This has not only reduced crop yields, but has also increased the cost of food production, further driving up prices for consumers. The lack of agricultural inputs could have long-term consequences, potentially leading to sustained food shortages well beyond this winter. Ninth is the shortage of automotive parts, which continues to plague the automotive industry. Car repairs are becoming more expensive and time-consuming as parts like microchips, tires, and even basic components such as brake pads are in limited supply. For many, this means extended wait times for repairs or being unable to afford necessary maintenance during the colder months. Additionally, the shortage of new vehicles has driven up prices for both new and used cars, making transportation less accessible for many families. 10th is the shortage of water in certain regions, particularly areas that have faced prolonged droughts. Water scarcity has already reached crisis levels in parts of the US, Africa, and the Middle East, and the winter months could exacerbate the problem as water demand increases for heating and other essential uses. This shortage not only affects households, but also industries such as agriculture, which rely heavily on water for irrigation. The 11th shortage is in construction materials such as lumber, cement, and steel. These materials have seen price hikes and limited availability due to supply chain disruptions and high demand during the pandemic recovery. For those looking to make home repairs or upgrades to prepare for winter, the lack of affordable materials could pose significant challenges. 12th is a shortage of childcare services, as many facilities struggle with staffing shortages and higher operational costs. This creates challenges for working parents, particularly during the winter months when children may need to stay home more frequently due to illness or inclement weather. 13th is a shortage of holiday-related goods, such as decorations, toys, and festive foods. The holiday season drives demand for these items, but supply chain bottlenecks and production delays mean that many consumers will face higher prices and limited selection. 14th is a shortage of public transportation services, as many transit systems continue to face funding shortfalls and staffing issues. Reduced service during the winter months could leave commuters struggling to get to work or school, particularly in urban areas. Finally, the 15th shortage is in affordable housing, as rising rents and home prices continue to outpace wage growth. The winter months often bring increased housing needs, particularly for vulnerable populations facing cold weather. The lack of affordable options exacerbates homelessness and housing insecurity, creating further strain on communities and social services. These shortages aren't just economic statistics. They represent real challenges that could impact millions of lives. They demand innovative solutions, adaptive strategies, and a fundamental rethinking of how we approach global resource management. As we move forward, the key will be resilience, adaptability, and a willingness to reimagine our approach to production, distribution, and resource management. The challenges are significant, but so too are human innovation and problem-solving capabilities. What are your thoughts on these potential shortages? How are you preparing for potential disruptions? Share your insights and strategies in the comments below. Understanding and preparing is our best defense against these emerging challenges.